Tom and Amy met at Colorado State University back in the day. Tom was a highly recruited baseball player who had high hopes of a professional career, but a cheap shot during his senior year ended any hopes of that, and he was crushed. He felt his life go down the drain, not to mention his hopes of a financially lucrative lifestyle. But Tom still believed in himself. He was absolutely positive that the future held big things for him. So, with the fearlessness of youth, he and a couple buddies started a tech business. To fund it, he put the little money he had and used a lot of credit cards. But nobody knew how to run a company, and it failed. Once again, his world came crashing down. Now, during these times, Amy was the rock that he could count on. He knew from college that they were awesome together. And after a lot of thought, he pushed through his fear and proposed to her. And to his delight, she accepted. Now, determined to provide a steady income and financial security, he put his nose to the grindstone. He built a reputation as a dependable guy who got things done. But as hard as he worked and as successful as he became, Tom still felt a void inside himself. On the other hand, Amy was the oldest child in her family. She knew her parents couldn't afford to send she and her two younger siblings to college, so she took out some loans and put herself through school. And right out of college, it was clear that Amy was a gifted businesswoman. She quickly became the lead market researcher of a small advertising firm. But over time, she became disillusioned. Her company espoused one set of values, but acted differently. They talked about doing the right thing for their prospects, but treated their customers as transactions, and their employees with little respect. They both felt the yearning for a family, so after 8 years of this emotional struggle, she left the rat race. And within 5 years, they had 3 children. Amy focused her energy into the family and their home. Tom's career blossomed, and they were able to move up the household ladder. By the time the children were starting school, they had a nice nest egg and a beautiful 5-bedroom, 4-bath house in an upscale neighborhood in Colorado Springs. And then life happened. See, Tom never fully recovered from his failed baseball career and startup attempt. He'd reached the glass ceiling at his company. He felt stuck. He wanted something more, but needed to provide for Amy and the kids. He felt the world was passing him by. One day, a trusted colleague asked him to participate in a can't-miss startup. He knew his kids would need a lot of financial support to get through college and grad school. He talked with Amy about it at the end of several of her days. But she was always exhausted and so focused on the kids that they couldn't really connect. And after waiting for weeks, he made the decision himself. He went all in. Unfortunately, the market busted, and the company failed. Once again, Tom was crushed. But this time, more than his pride was hurt. This time, he had lost most of the family's nest egg. And he didn't tell Amy. He thought he could make it up with hard work and bonuses. Amy discovered their new financial situation when she couldn't send the kids to an upscale tech camp. And as you can imagine, she was furious. She felt that he had made these investments without her consent. He felt that she was so interested in their children that she wouldn't listen to him. They had to downsize their house, sell their summer home, and borrow against their 401k. A huge rift came between them. Each felt alone in the marriage, but stayed together for the children's sake. Tom worked harder and longer to make up the money he lost. He needed to prove to Amy that he wasn't a loser. Amy began to feel that she hadn't done anything with her life. She became withdrawn and depressed. Amy's slow crawl out of despair occurred when she went back to school. She got an MBA and eventually a job as an interior designer. And like her early business career, she enjoyed the work. But she also knew something was missing. She started dreaming of her own firm. But she knew what she and Tom had gone through before, and she didn't want to relive that again. Meanwhile, Tom got his career back on track. His company offered him an opportunity to head a new division in La Jolla, California. But he felt paralyzed. He didn't want to make the same mistakes of his past either. Well, on a cold, wintry day, Tom made himself a cup of hot chocolate. He sat on his favorite chair and watched the snow slowly falling down. He saw the piles of his failures, in sports, in business, his marriage, not to mention the financial failure for his children. He knew he had to make a change. He felt that he had to take this new opportunity. He had to talk to Amy. He needed to share his fears. He needed her to hear him. That same morning, Amy was returning from a business trip to San Diego. She was completing the interior design for a very successful entrepreneur. She found the environment to be exciting and optimistic, and began to look at her life from the lens of possibility. She dreaded the end of this project because she had to head back into a depressing environment at home. She knew she couldn't stay in Colorado anymore. When Tom picked up Amy at the airport, he took her to a 4-star restaurant in Colorado Springs. And there, for over 6 hours, they each shared the pain and fears of the past 15 years. At the end of that night, they jointly decided to start their life over. Tom would take the offered position, and Amy would use her contacts to find a firm in San Diego. Well, 2 years later, their lives looked up. Amy did get that job and was very successful. And under his direction, Tom's division was making his company money. They were empty nesters living in a nice home. But neither were fulfilled. You see, each had an intense desire to take their lives to the next level, to make their lives worth something. And they both realized that there would be no golden years of retirement. They would have to work until they died. They wanted to take financial control of the rest of their lives, and they wanted to make a difference. But they couldn't afford to make the mistakes of the past. They didn't know how to start or what to do, and they were afraid of losing what had taken years to build back up. What should they do? What would you do? No, really, what would you do?